Welcome to this week's tour of ideas around faith at home for church leaders.
This series looks at how we can encourage households to grow in faith, exploring a different theme each week.
Offering practical ways that church leaders can support parents and households.
This week, we're exploring how humility plays an integral role in our identity as Christians.
We'll begin then by asking some of the children and young people in schools that we're working with to describe humility.
Humility to me means selflessness.
You're thinking about how others feel, you're being kind to everyone, you're sharing with everyone.
People respecting other people.
Humility is not showing off, keeping low level when you achieve something.
It's about not boasting when my team win a game of football. It is also about not showing off at the things that I am good at.
I showed humility when
I was playing a game with my sister, I let her be the boss of me and do what she says.
I've shown humility letting the infants cross the playground without pushing in front of them. I was doing a spelling test and I got 10 out of 10, but I didn't jump out of my seat shouting, I got 10 out of 10. No, because that would just be mean. So then instead I just sat in my seat and then smiled.
Humility means many things to people, as we've just heard.
Humility might be better considered to be a fruit of the Spirit.
So how might we encourage prayerful moments for God's Spirit to be active in people's lives to produce such fruit?
So one way to encourage humility then might be to come at it from a different angle, by encouraging characteristics of wonder or wondering.
Martin Payne has spent many years learning from children and families, working with Messy Church and Bible Reading Fellowship. We asked Martin about the importance of wondering.
This season of being at home with our families isn't easy, of course. But I wonder if you've noticed how there's been more and more opportunities as you're together to have wandering, open-ended conversations with your children. Children are wonderfully curious and very, very good at questions, as you know. And they're not shy about big questions too. The big things in life become things they want to know about, big mysteries, including things like suffering and death and of course God. So when these big questions come, can I urge you, please not to ignore them, nor to sort of go into teacher mode and try and give nice, neat answers each time, but rather see them as faith opportunity moments, faith growth moments, not for instruction and information, but for wondering together. Have you ever noticed, for example, how Jesus taught and how he dealt with questions? He began his teaching very often with a question, and when he was asked questions, guess what? He asked questions back. I hope that's helpful. I think it will not only help your children to grow into faith, but actually will enrich your own faith journey as well.
Some helpful insights from Martin there. So how do we get people wondering more in our faith? We're encouraging people to use questions such as, when do you feel a pressure to get things perfect? What is the best part about being around someone who is humble? Tell me a story of when someone else was humble and what you felt or thought about it. What does God think about people who are humble? Why?
We all know the expression better caught than taught. So this week, we're encouraging families and households to use such questions.
It's equally important to give parents and carers some time to wonder about their own faith and the challenges of parenting.
This is a good thing at any stage of life, but for parents of teenagers, it will be particularly helpful.
Here's youth ministry writer and academic Andrew Root talking about some of the challenges young people face in their identity and the power of stories.
As we think about faith at home, I think one of the things that gets passed on to us kind of culturally is when we think one of the big objectives for us is to help our kids formulate their identities. And we tend to assume kind of culturally, and I don't think this is quite true, but we tend to assume that identity is a completely internal pursuit. And we actually live in an age that we might call the age of authenticity, where finding your most authentic self is the most important or even the highest good. So as a parent, thinking about faith formation or just thinking about being a good parent, that you have to support whatever identity your kid comes up with. I think identity is always a dialogue, it's always a discussion, and it's always based in stories and narratives, that we only have an identity when we have a story. So here's a really big practical takeaway. One of the things we can do to help faith at home, and one of the steps we can take that seems small but really is deeply profound, is that we can start telling our kids stories. And that we shouldn't stop telling them stories when they're 4 or 5, but we need to continually tell them stories. And some pretty basic stories about how we understand what makes life good, but also need to tell them stories about why we go to church, about why we think the Bible has something significant to say to our lives, why we're people who put trust in this other story, this deep, significant story of Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. It starts by us narrating those experiences, and it starts with our parents doing that for us, but then it moves beyond that, and as the community that young people are in, the church community that they're in, narrates those experiences for them.
An interesting angle on thinking about identity and how we respond to that as families and churches.
Given this, it's important to note that faith at home is not about getting parents to teach and tell.
As biblical scholar Eugene Peterson says, no parent is expected to mount an advertising campaign on behalf of a deity, but to share our story and the story of faith.
Peterson argues that children and young people are a real gift to church and families in the way they provoke all to grow in faith. It's time for parents and children to grow together.
This takes humility, born from wondering. And Peterson argues we learn this from our wider church community.
It takes wisdom alongside humility, another gift of the Spirit.
So to close this week, we'd like to invite you to picture the parents and carers that you know and to pray for them.
Those with kids, young, old, and even grown up.
Invite God's blessing on them, that they would be filled with the Spirit for their vocation as parents and carers.
And that they will know the fruit of humility and the gift of wisdom for this calling.
I'm made in the image of love, in the image of the one who delivered me. Hallelujah. I'm made in the image of love, and I know the day will come when we all are free. Hallelujah. Well, you may not see the beauty of my story, and it's easier to lock me out than know me. Well, I have caught a glimpse of heaven's glory, and it looks like my wounded body raised. I'm made in the image of love, in the image of the one who delivered me. Hallelujah. I'm made in the image of love, and I know the day will come when we all are free. Hallelujah. Well, we might find ourselves in isolation, but we're the people of God's liberation. Yes, we are. So open up your heart to revelation, oh, and you might discover the Spirit say that I'm made in the image of love, in the image of the one who delivered me. Hallelujah, I'm made in the image of love, and I know the day will come when we all are free. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.